they did a podcast about Britney Spears for a long time, which is
just about Britney Spears.
Yeah, but it was before the conservatorship. Like, it was like because nobody else was doing a Britney Spears podcast. And then the conservatorship started coming out, and we were like, oh, we don't want to like joke around about a prisoner. And we were like, oh.
No,
so
she is. We were talking about her yesterday, oddly enough, and we're like, the video, like the energy of her videos is like, oh, I never knew. I felt like I'm in a jihadi like prison camp. Like, to who it may concern.
Yeah.
These people are unforgiving. But she's just like dancing, like staring dead-eyed.
No, it's spooky.
Do you think she's on like fucking Thorazine?
Not right. I think she might be off everything, but like in a way that's just as bad as being on. You know what I mean? I think they drugged her for so many years that now she's off and her brain is like nuked.
Yeah, she has like Judy Garland energy. Where
she
she's
has
like,
very much lobotomy.
Razzle dazzle. Like, you're like, oh my God.
What was she on?
I don't know. Thorazine is what they gave. Like, okay, when you like watch like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and there's people that are just like walking into walls and they're like zombies. That's Thorazine. They don't prescribe it anymore. It's like a 1960s drug. Like in the 1960s, they were like, a woman's acting up. We better take a part of her brain out. And this like people are sort of getting lobotomies because people are like, God, this nagging wife. I really wish part of her frontal lobe was just like itched a little bit, you know? You know, and then you just lose your sense of smell. So, Claire, are you in a relationship?
Yeah, I'm engaged.
Shit, that's like a real relationship.
Are we going? Is it?
No, we're not
I was like,
starting.
I'm
just kidding. We're starting.
Okay,
we're starting.
No, I didn't know we were already. I was like, are we in it?
I was like, are you? Okay, what period in your menstruation are you right now?
Let me tell you.
No, you're engaged. Okay, I was wondering because I knew you were with somebody for a long time.
Yeah, we're engaged. I keep him offline though because I feel like I can talk about him then, and then you could be on a subway and I'm like not actually giving away his privacy because you could look at him and not know that you know a lot about him.
Yeah, that's
You know what I mean?
that's an interesting thing. How is it to be? We're not in a relationship together, but we both are in relationships, and like. That's something I have never, like, this is the first time I lived with somebody. Holy shit, that's a new, what the fuck?
It's weird. I mean, we started living together because, like, during the pandemic, he was in a studio apartment and I just went over all the time.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, based on that, anything would be better than doing a studio apartment pandemic. And so, like, when you start with that, it's like, wow, look at all the space in the world. I can close the door now or go outside.
Yeah.
This is the easiest relationship in the world.
But do you ever feel like sometimes I'm like, I come home or like, I'm just like, damn, he's like still here. I'm like, wow, like he's like, we're like around each other all the time.
You know what my problem is? My problem is that I'm deeply lazy and I'm deeply clingy and I won't get anything done. Like he'll be playing video games in his own little room. Like he has a separate office room where he plays video games and I'll have so much work to do and he'll be like, okay, I'm just gonna go to my room. So you have the whole apartment to do work and I'll be like, I'll just sit on the floor and like watch him play video games and be like, okay.
Oh my God, you're such a good docile girlfriend. You'll just sit on the floor and like watch him play like Minecraft.
What's he play?
What?
What's he play?
Well, the reason he moved in is because he was able to like build a little PC. So he's like a PCer hard and he got the like a 3090, I don't know. He got some graphics card that he was really excited about. He plays like whatever's new. I don't know. Valorant. He's a big Valorant's his like resting game.
Okay, cool.
But it's not like, oh, I love watching him play video games. It's just like I hate being alone. But when I was single and living by myself, I would wake up and I'd be like, well, I could just sit here or I could go to yoga and get my shit done. And now I'm like, I could pretend I'm hanging out. You know what I mean? I'll be like, oh, I don't need to do my work. I'm spending quality time with my boyfriend who can't hear me because he has like headphones on that are noise canceling. But do you know what I mean? And the same with us, like I love walking around, but if there is a car available, I'll just drive and then I'll hate myself because all I did was drive around. I'm like, there's things I need to do, but since he's there, I'll be like, oh, I could do my work or we could go get brunch.
Oh no, I always do that where I'm like I have deadlines, like straight up like important things I have to do. I'm like, he's like, so what are you up to right now? I'm like, I don't know. Do you want to get lunch?
Exactly. And it's because I'd rather,
sad.
like, there's always something more fun to do than work, which is hang out. Even if we're like not really hanging out. Like in the morning, we'll wake up and I'll be like, oh, do you want to go get brunch? And he'll be like, well, I have a little bit of work to do. And I'm like, okay, I'll just wait.
Me too.
And but it's like, I'll be like, you do your work and I'll just like look at TikTok and wait for you. But then if his work is 2 hours, now I've spent 2 hours on TikTok waiting to go eat food. And like that's the day now. And so I feel like that's the problem I have is I'm very just like I feel
You're
like
very malleable.
I've just like lost all my motivation. I'm like, I could just sit here and I've seen somebody. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no work to be social or anything because there's already somebody I could chat with and now I've chatted.
Yeah, we talked about that the other night of just like how when you're like with somebody, you then are just all like, you kind of have this built-in buddy.
Yeah,
so you're like, damn, it's Friday night. I should go out. And you're like, oh, I'm like, this is just as valuable. Like if I was alone and it was like Friday or Saturday night and I could literally hear people outside having fun, I would be like, what's wrong with me? I'm Ted Kaczynski. Like I'm
that's
not,
exactly what I mean.
That's how I felt last night. I was just staying at the Roxy and I could hear like the jazz from downstairs and I was like, what am I doing, dude? I just took like a fucking 50 milligram edible and I literally got up and I was downstairs. I was like, I got a beer at the bar just to be like around someone else. It felt horrible.
Can I tell you something weirdly? Okay, this is just my brain can't do it. Super off topic, but I do want to talk about your boyfriend's video games. But I really do because I'm curious. But last night, speaking of jazz, last night we were talking about nursing homes and we're like, oh, what's that nursing home bop that goes like da 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 da. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Of course. I feel like it was a Sprite commercial.
Liam is looking at me like concerned. Like
Wait, what nursing home commercial is this?
First of all, I said it's a nursing home bop.
And I said it was in a Sprite commercial or in a Dr. Pepper. Like that, I know that song also from I can see a soda can.
So anyway, me and my friends are like obnoxiously screaming this. Like, what is that song? How do you even do that? We try to Shazam it. We're like, what if we like do ba-da-da-da-da-da and Shazam it? Doesn't work. They're too smart. The computers, they got
Too
us.
smart or too dumb?
Yeah,
because I got it.
Too dumb.
Am I smarter than Shazam? Because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. But then it's like, how do you figure out that song? So I'm straight up out here Googling, what's that old song that goes ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da? Horrible. And then I'm like, oh, I'll call my dad who's on the spectrum because he just knows everything. So I call him and he probably thought I was like shithouse drunk, but I'm just obnoxious. I wasn't even drunk. I was just obnoxious. So we're yelling this to him on the phone and he goes, yes, that's called In the Mood by Glenn Miller.
Oh, really?
And then, swear to God, I knew that he was going to know because we were like, how are we going to figure this out? It's going to take us like a week. We're going to like ask everyone. And it felt like proto-internet. Because back in the day, the answers were just not accessible. You would just be like, wow, I wonder where Jennifer Love Hewitt is from. And then you just have to wonder that. And then you would like try to talk to some Hewitt heads out there. And then they'd be like, oh, she's actually from Lake Elsinore in Southern California. And you're like, oh my God. And then you make a connection. But now you just are like, I wonder where she's from. And then you Google it. And
Can I actually say that's how we were? Gen Z is worse. Because I'm on TikTok and the amount of times you'll say something, they'll be like, wait, what is that? And they won't even Google. They like want it handed to them. Can you confirm? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
so that sounds bespoke.
Yeah, but it's like it drives me fucking crazy because I'm on TikTok a lot and I'm always doing like celeb gossip stuff. And they're like, "Cool, can you tell me who like Michael Jackson was married to though?" And I'm like, "No, you could Google it, but they'll get mad at you if you don't give it to them for free. They're like, you really should be doing this. It's your job." And I'm like,
what?
Who am I working for? You have never paid me in your life. I'm not just like gonna Google things for you. And like, God bless, I love my listeners. But if we put up tickets online, sometimes we'll put the link and people DM us and be like, the link doesn't work for me. How could I get these tickets? And I'll be like, Google the podcast and the city. And it'll like, they really don't know how to do things unless it's handed to them directly via link.
That's like whenever somebody's like, I'm like, hey, meet me at this restaurant. They're like, what's the address? And then I just send them a link to google.com. And I'm like, just look it up.
People have become so lazy with information finding. Like, do you ever, like fashion influencers will have a shirt on and everyone will be like, where's the shirt from? And they'll be like, Zara. And then they'll be like, okay, but what's the number? And she'll be like, I don't know, just look up white blouse, Zara. And they'll be like, babe, send me the link.
Too hard.
Bestie, which white blouse? And it's like, look with your eyes. You see what you like. Go look at the website and see which one you like. It might even like, just try an inch.
I have like a theory that, I mean, I don't know, this might be founded or unfounded, but like, there's a big difference in the brain processes of like learning things and knowing things. Because when you learn things, you have like a relationship with that information. So you remember it, you're like, oh, I remembered where fucking Jack Nicholson was born or whatever, or like where he studied acting because I learned it from so-and-so and I have a relationship to that information. Whereas now I feel like we look things up and then we're just like, okay, got it. And we think we're like Neo and fucking the Matrix, but it's like we can't download our curiosity, which is wonderful. It's like our brain is just an infinite well, but our curiosity just is just not on the same level in any way, shape, or form with the information like holding area. But I wish that there was more, because I think now people be like, they're getting dumber. And I'm like, yes and no. And I also always hate that, because it's always old people that are like, this generation. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. You like lived during a time before like fucking women, like black people were allowed to like vote. And then they're like, this generation. Like they're just like, it's like, no, fuck. Back in the day, I just hate people that are sentimental about the past.
Yeah. I do think the next generation sucks dick, though. I'll say it.
I like looking at pictures from like World War II and I, and just looking at the actual faces of the soldiers being like, this looks like every kid I went to high school with. I'm like, oh, that would have just been, I just see like a nerdy kid that looks like my little brother. I'm like, Jesus Christ, they were shipping them out.
Yeah.
They were doing anyone and everyone.
Yeah, people with like osteoporosis as a child. People, just like kids that like couldn't like process lactose. And they're like, you'll do well in a war.
It's just all kids that would have joined like the fucking Quidditch team in college are just storming the beach. And I'm like, that's fucking awesome. That's really great, dude.
But do you think that like, because I think people, they'll have this like thing where they're like, and that's when men were men. And it's like, no, that's just like when everyone had PTSD but like didn't know what it was, and then they would just like be stoic, and then they would just strangle their wives.
That was being a cool guy.
That was being like a manly that was like you were Robert Mitchum, dude. Like you were a bad ass.
Smoking cigarettes inside and hitting your kids. That's what meant.
Smoking cigarettes like in the dark with the light of a TV, just like quiet, angry, like angry quiet.
Ooh.
Drinking whiskey.
That's what I want to be when
You
I'm
ever
a dad.
walk into a situation like that, just quiet, angry, and you're like, ooh, bone-chillingly terrifying. You're like, damn, this person's gonna fly off the handle.
You ever walk in on a guy leaning, but like it's just like a lean that he's about to do something, just over a kitchen counter like this, and you just have to back out of the room.
How many rooms are you guys like? You guys are just walking in on strangers in their homes.
You know when you're in the veranda,
These are all
we
relatives.
just name different rooms. Okay, so you know when you're in the veranda.
I just thought in LA, you guys just walking around trying doorknobs, seeing who forgot to lock, like just like walking in on dioramas of people's lives. Like this is a moment. This is a quiet moment for you, but it tells me a lot.
Yeah, we're like all like we're psychological gesture. I consider myself an armchair psychologist, which means that I went to community college, didn't get a degree, but you know, I just bullshit a lot.
Yeah.
I have a question about your boyfriend's
Sure.
The video game playing, because I feel like you're a saint. Because like anytime a woman's like, he plays video games, I sound like a cunt. Okay, I do. Whatever, it's fine.
No, I'm happy because I have a stance with this, so I'm happy to talk about it.
I can see both positive and negative.
Mm-hmm.
Negative is like, I would truly be like, you're wasting your time.
Mm-hmm.
I would be I know it sounds cunty, but like, I'd be like, why aren't you doing something like reading or like playing racquetball or doing something like social or doing, you know.
Social.
It is social. That's my point on the positive. I'm going through like Liam is he's like leaning over like
God forbid he's happy for an hour and a half a day.
Yeah, okay, so I'll tell you, I hear you. Yeah, okay.
Why do men think women are just like vampires when it comes to your
say you're
happiness?
sitting here going, you are being like, they need to spend their times better. And then being like, why do you think women nag? Anyway, pick up a book. My feeling on this is like,
learn French.
When I met my boyfriend, he was working like 15 hours a day. He was working from like 8:30 a.m. to like 10:30 p.m. every day. And then like he was working out every day. And then I was an open mic comedian. And who also somehow is watching entire seasons of Real Housewives of New York in a week, and it like has a 6-hour per day phone addiction. So, and he makes like a lot more money than me and is a lot more effective. And also, what the fuck do I like? Nobody has a more embarrassing time suck money losing hobby than I do. Nothing is worse than stand-up comedy. So he had a full-time job, and then like he's from Canada and all of his friends still live there. So yeah, he logs in, and it's like when he talks to his boys, and it's like he likes to do it on the weekends in the same way that I will sit in my room and put on Netflix in the background and then not even watch it because I'm on my phone like reading tweets. And I do think it's crazy that people who like love reality TV or like any TV will be like, well, video games is worse. And I'm like, why? I don't know.
You know, you're so right, because at least like you're engaging with something, so it's like doesn't like rot your brain.
Yeah, I'm disassociating. Somebody asked me that they're like, well, what do you love about TikTok? I'm like, I love the way my eyes glaze over and I can just watch like 10 seconds of content.
Of like shapes and
Yeah,
colors.
and I'm like, there's a pretty girl putting on lipstick. There's a pretty girl putting on lipstick. I'm like, ooh, there's a baby being snarky. Okay, like, oh, interior design. Oh, Shein haul. Like, what the fuck is, like, I'm going to sit here and judge him because he has a way that he likes to escape and cool off. Like, I don't care. And also, I mean, when we met, like, now things are going well for me, but when we met, I was like a receptionist hanging out in basements in Queens, hoping that one day I could impress enough homeless people that I can do their bar show in a pizzeria. And so for me to look at him and be like, but you waste your time is insane. And also I do feel like with the video games thing, I understand like if you have a boyfriend or if you have a significant other who has any hobby that like cuts into the time they spend with you, but I'm like, you have a full-time job, you work out, and we spend a lot of time together. If there's still additional hours, like he's allowed to do it with I don't own every hour of his day.
Why not? No, and we're going to improve that. We're going to help.
Well, it's because right now he makes more money than me. But if it were to switch, then I would own him. You know what I mean?
I do think about the like actually developing a skill with the time, because in the pandemic, all I did for probably 10 hours a day was play Skate 3 with my brother.
I mean, so you're learning to skate.
And yeah, and I was like, damn, if I did half the hours I put into Skate 3 into just riding a skateboard, I would be pretty nice with it. And I can't fucking stand on one.
That's like what my boyfriend says about his brother, where he's like, he was the best person at Guitar Hero I'd ever seen, that if he actually learned how to play guitar, he would be incredible. But he doesn't know how to play guitar. He just is the most expert Guitar Hero player. But again, it is just like, it's fodder for your time.
Yeah.
I get that. It's really funny though. My one of my dearest friends, she was dating this guy for a while, and she was like, you know, like he's been really evasive lately, and I'm like, kind of like, he says he has to like do all this stuff, and then like he won't like return my like texts or calls for a while, and she was like, I think he's cheating on me.
Is he just?
And he was literally, there was like some gaming thing that he didn't. She didn't know that he gamed at all. And because she is like even more of an elitist cunt about it than I am. So when she's like, can you just tell me what's going on? Like if you're seeing somebody else or something's happening, just like let me know, or like what is happening. She's like, I don't know if he's like doing drugs or like just seeing somebody like, and he's like, okay, well, twice a year there is a summit that happens, and I'm logging it. And she was like, God, I wish you were cheating on me. Like she was so
No, my boyfriend does
mortified.
he'll watch like Dota championships and be like, this is a really big one. It's Canada versus Japan. And I'm just like, okay, good for you. But I do think that like in our society, there's all these like moral values placed on equally dumb time sucks. And it's like watching TV, being on your phone, video games. Like what's better, just drinking? Like people just go to bars where they can't hear each other talk and drink. Would that be like a better way to spend your time? Or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Just just sitting in a basement getting stoned with your friends with like Ren and Stimpy on in the background. Like, why are those? I read books for my podcast. I read a book every week, and people are like, "Wow, you're reading so much. That's amazing."
That is amazing.
Bragging.
I'm getting dumber every day. I'm getting dumber.
Why are you making Liam and I feel bad?
Well, I'm reading Celebrity Memoirs, and let me tell you something. Chriselle Staus from Selling Sunset, she doesn't have a fucking lot to say. So now I've read a book a week, and in theory, people go, "Oh, isn't that a valuable way to spend your time?" And it's like, my brain is dead. I'm atrophying from the inside out. So, you know, I read some dumb fucking books, but everybody will be like, oh, any book is better than TV. And I'm like, I don't know that it is.
Isn't it funny that books, I'm just all like, there are no such thing as dumb books. They got big words in them.
Yeah,
I'm like,
not Christelle Strauss's.
I'm Lenny from Mice of Men, another book, reference, hello. My reading list is from fucking high school. Yeah. I'm like, you know, Catcher in the Rye, Johnny Tremaine.
Great Gatsby. If we recall, To Kill a Mockingbird.
I believe it was Atticus Finch who said.
I love celebrity favorite. Whenever celebs do their favorite books, it's always like, okay, and you dropped out in 9th grade, and I can tell to the T.
Or they're like the most douchebag books. We're like, The Power of Now.
Yeah.
That's my favorite
Atomic Habits.
book.
I read it as a habit.
The most cringy shit to watch, and I can't believe people genuinely watch it, is Vogue's like 20 question things.
76 or 74.
That, if you want to watch one that
is it?
makes you, okay, so basically Vogue magazine, they have this this video series where they have somebody come in to like Gwyneth Paltrow's home, and Gwyneth Paltrow, she's like, "Oh, hi, like I wasn't expecting you," and you know, obviously this is all set up by her fucking representatives and all that. They go and they're like, okay, like, what's your favorite? Okay, pizza or pasta? What's your favorite movie? Would you rather do that? And then they have to like rapidly answer these questions, which are, again, it's all staged, it's scripted. They definitely got these. Their agent and or manager probably even like focus grouped these to be like,
100%. They have a PR expert team come and be like, what should her favorite food be? It needs to be believable but relatable. And they're like, grilled chicken fingers but from Erewhon. And they're like, yeah, a dip. And somebody's like, ranch, no. Honey mustard, okay. Like they like really, it's the least authentic
Meanwhile,
thing in the
they're just
world.
eating kelp noodles.
Maybe.
That's pretty much it. People are like, what's that? So there's one with Emrata, and it makes me so angry. They're like, what's your favorite album? Like she shows them her like vinyl collection, and I'm like, they're all like brand new. I'm like, you just bought your assistant bought these at Urban Outfitters, and they're just like represses of like Fleetwood Mac and Jim Croce and like Carole King and shit like that. I'm like, I am just such a like authentic like weirdo, and I just can't. It like makes me fear. She's like, my favorite thing is art, and I think with her book, she says some like deep cut of like a book of like some like Jean-Paul Sartre book, but not like No Exit, like one that was like Kafka's like something like, I'm like, give me a fucking break. Is it just so bad to just be perfectly hot and that's all? Like, can we just leave it as that? And I'm not saying like she can't, it's not like she like is incapable of being complex. It's not like that. But I don't like how we're trying to like make hot people like back in the day, like you could just be hot and like dumber than a fucking toad.
Well, okay, so we just did Pamela Anderson's book that came out on
Love
Tuesday. And so our episode came out and we had already done Tommy Lee's book. So because of that, we had done Tommy Lee's book last year, right before the Hulu series came out, which was based on the book. His book was the source material for that. And something that made us so mad in the Hulu series that we stopped watching it is in order to like make Pam respectable, one of the plot lines is that she wants to give her Baywatch character more depth. And in that way they give her humanity. That way you can like feel bad for her when she's revenge porned. And it made us so mad that like it's so like she can be a stripper if she's paying her way through college. Do you know what I mean? Like it's this like male thing where it's like I want her to be a whore, but only because she was on bad circumstances. Like we're allowed to like objectify Pam now that we know she actually wanted to be smart the whole time. And it's like, well, wow, she wanted her character to be deep. I guess I can feel really bad for her now that I know when somebody stole a sex tape and everyone in America basically like digitally assaulted her. Like, and it's not true. We read her book and she was like, I loved that character. She was just fucking jet skiing. I was outside. It was easy. It was fun. It was as much as I wanted it to be. It was just like hot, good fun. But like a man had to go in there and be like, well, how do we give her like, how do we teach people to respect her? She must be more than just a hot girl. And it's like, why can't you just respect her? Why can't you
being
say,
also kind?
Like, why does she have to be so smart for her to like not get revenge porned?
It's almost it's really wild. I do have just a quick question. You read both her memoirs? Who's dumber, Pamela Anderson or Tommy Lee?
Oh, without a question, Tommy Lee. I mean,
knew
Pamela Anderson's really well. I mean, talk about a smart, hot woman. She's like super well read. Like she's really deep in the art. She's really friends with a lot of like interesting culture people and like painters and like fashion designers. One of her good friends is Julian Assange. They're like very good friends.
That's so
and
bizarre.
She has like written to the Australian
WikiLeaks guy?
Yeah, she's written to the
guy.
Australian government to try to get him free. She's like super big in PETA and she's a big believer in like going to other countries, but like working with local activists. And she's very conscious of not just like going in and bulldozing.
White saviorism.
Yeah, she's like not like that at all. And she's very quietly done it. And her whole thing is she was like weirdly sexy. She had this magnetism and she allowed her sexiness to kind of open doors for her. And then just quietly she lives these lives where like really smart people were always just coming to her house and having interesting conversations with her. And she didn't need to broadcast it because she's like, I don't know. I don't need to be taken seriously by the public. I can just live my own life. So the question of who's smart, Tommy Lee or Pam Anderson, it's like not even a question. It's Pam Anderson. And then Tommy Lee is like an awful person.
Yeah. I mean, one of the most incredible watches is Behind the Music Mötley Crüe, which is incredible because it's like Nikki Sixx. It's just all these debaucherous psychopaths, like full on psychopaths that are like Nikki Sixx overdosed on heroin 6 or like something like 5 times. He died. He was
Yes.
legally
He
dead
has
for
a memoir
10 minutes.
too.
Pretty cool.
It's crazy. No, but his shit is wild because he's like, I was dead. I literally saw my own body. I left my body. I was dead. I transcended. And then I was brought back to life. Like I had the whole thing happen. Like the white light, I went into it. And it's just like, what the fuck? Vince Neil was so famous because it was the, this is in 1986, I believe. So this is like the height of Mötley Crüe. Vince Neil gets so fucked up on alcohol and cocaine. He drives his Ferrari with his best friend in the front seat. Neither of them are wearing seatbelts. He crashes his car. His best friend dies. And he spent 1 night in jail. That's how famous he was. That he was in jail just for that night, really just as like a drunk tank thing. But he fully killed somebody with, you know what I mean? Like
Tommy Lee, the whole like resurrection of Pam and Tommy, he went to jail for domestic violence. He was put in solitary confinement.
For how long?
He was in jail for like 4 months.
That's wild.
For her?
Yeah. For he was a psychopath. He would like punch people all the time. He was a psychopath. And then one night they got into a fight and she had her 7-week-old baby in her arms and he like threw her down the stairs. And in his book, he's like, we got into a small...
She was overreacting.
Literally, he's like, we got into a small skirmish and I tapped her in the bum with a slipper on just because I was a little upset. And for some reason, the cops were called. And it's like, yeah, you like pushed her with a baby.
Jeez.
And then like he like ripped off one of her fingernails.
Oh, okay. What is he, in the mob? That is crazy to do.
Yeah.
No, that's insane.
And it was because he was complaining that she never paid attention to him anymore now that she had kids. And so she went to call her mom to be like, well, I'll have my mom watch the kids so I can spend more time with you. And he pulled the phone off the wall, like ripped it off the wall and screamed like, I don't want your fucking parents coming over. And then she was like, okay, well then you have to help me with the kids. And he like lost it because she said, you have to help me with the kids.
He's a baby. Like, I think this is what happened. This like Arrested Development occurs to people that become famous very young, like obviously rock stars and like some actors and everything. And this doesn't go for everyone, but like, I think them, especially all of Mötley Crüe, Tommy Lee, were like, you are 15. Like, what happens to you when you become the most famous person when you're 21 years old? That's wild.
Yeah.
That's really wild. But they did like some crazy sociopathical things to women as when they were on tour, like as a band, because they were just so beloved and every woman wanted to fuck them. So they did, this is them all admitting to this shit. They're like, oh man, and like regaling in it, like, oh dude, we had this contest where we said, okay, who cannot take a shower for the longest and still get laid every single night.
Ew.
And it lasted for a month. So they're having sex with somebody, probably bareback, and then playing a whole show, not showering, and then doing it the next night, and then doing it the next night. We're talking not washing their dick. We're talking about they are like, I'm pretty sure they started AIDS. Like, I'm like, it was the
coolest competition there's ever been.
It's so gross though. And it's just
it's
like,
disgusting.
imagine the putrid, like balls are already not built in order to smell incredible. And then it's like you are sitting playing drums for like a 2-hour show. They definitely never drank water in their life.
No.
They're just drinking Jack Daniels.
I can't believe he's still alive.
I think that about a lot of rock stars, and my whole theory is if you are rich, you will never die. You will live. It's like if you're angry, powerful, or rich, like Donald Trump won't die because he is seething with hate. Like you kind of like, if you seethe with hate, I don't know what it is
Like
in that
pickles
mechanism.
you.
I think he's chilling.
It like embalms you.
He's
from
on a
the inside
golf
out.
course every day, just being like, I'm getting head in an hour after this. This is gonna be. That guy is relaxed. I don't think he's walking around hateful. He's definitely hateful. But
You're right, and it's all like hyperbole. Well, he's purposely being hyperbolic. I think he really understands the character that he's playing, but he is just super rich. Like, just rich people can negotiate. Like, first of all, Keith Richards gets full-on blood transfusions all the time, like, which means that he's an ex-heroin addict, but like he gets his blood taken out, like his shitty blood, and then just like rejuvenated like a literal vampire. Like insane. So if you're rich, you just like can live forever. You can pay like tens of thousands of dollars to save you. You know, if you like, oops, I overdosed. Oops, did it again. Another 15 grand, whatever. You know, it doesn't matter. You can live forever.
I have not to completely change topics, but how did your fiance ask the question? I'm curious about.
I kind of, it was like I told him to, honestly.
Really?
Well, I mean, we knew we were going to get married. And I think like that fall, I had been like, okay, like what do we think our timeline is? Because I'm a big planner. And I think we had actually planned for like in a year to get married. And then my podcast took off and I was like financially stable. Because that was my big thing, is I always wanted to be financially stable before I got married. And then we like were able to salary ourselves. And then the minute I like was like, oh, okay, I'm on a salary, I was like, actually, we need to get married pretty soon, because I was like, he doesn't understand how long it takes to plan a wedding and like how long that process is. And then I'm like,
do you want children or no?
Yeah, I do.
It's
And then
the whole
on top
thing.
of that, I'm like, I feel like my career is taking off, and I'm like, I have time to plan a wedding now. I don't know that I have time to plan a wedding next year. And already like my weekends are, now that we're like traveling a lot for the podcast, I'm like, yeah, next year I wouldn't have had a weekend for a wedding. So his family has a house in Lake Como, which is really nice. And we were already going there on vacation, and my parents were also coming. And so I basically was like, listen, we are going to be in Lake Como with both sets of parents. An opportunity has been presented to you on a silver platter where you have to do almost nothing. And so he just like.
How long have you guys been together before?
4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
That's like we actually had a question one time where like, how long is long enough to be with somebody until you get married? And I think we both said like on average about 4 years, but that changes. Like the older you get, the less time it is okay.
Yeah, I feel like the more you know yourself, the more you're like on a track. I definitely felt like when I was I'm like, I can't get married if I'm an open micer. I like will not be married and go to an open mic. I would rather kill myself. And then also I was like, I don't want to marry somebody and then like down the line get successful and have them be like, wait, what? Like, do you know what I mean? Because the lifestyle is so different. Like now I am traveling a lot with the podcast, and I feel like I'm much busier and stuff. And he's like very supportive and on board. And is like, if I was like, I have to go to LA for 3 months, I'll see you later. He'd be like, good luck out there. Love you. Bye. But I am like, I think it would be shitty to marry somebody when I'm just like bopping around doing my little thing. And then suddenly I'm like, oh, did you know you signed up for somebody who might spend 6 months a year shooting a TV show in a different state?
Yeah.
Like I feel like someone's allowed to know that about you going in, and you can't really know what that's like until you're living it. So I was like, I need to get closer to the life I would like to have one day before it locks down.
It kind of seems like it all beautifully worked out for you though.
Yeah, it's gone.
Because you can't plan life like that.
No, and I mean, I guess like I'm not shooting a TV show in LA. So like I say that now when I'm like, I'm taking a weekend to do Seattle and a weekend to do Austin, and it's not that big of a deal. But I do think he is very supportive. So we're both on board. Like if that were to happen, we'll handle it. Yeah.
I think it's hard though to even project what your life could be. Because I mean, we say this like in our 30s, like 20s. It's like it's so funny. Like I always think like I try not to be like I'll just do the shit where I'm like now that I'm in my 30s, like I act like I'm so like I know everything, and I'm like I don't know shit, and like I'm not even middle aged. So there's so much that we don't even know what can occur. Things that not only interpersonally in our lives, but things that happen, circumstances that occur that are like totally outside of you that affect the way you deal and handle things, familial things that happen. So it's like having a plan going in or knowing that, because I feel that way with like in my relationship where I'm like, that my goals will, if everything works out in the way that I want, I will not be around as much. I will not be as available, which will make me very happy, but might like create a strain, and it's really goes with personality too. Because I think that like I talk a lot. Like I talk a lot.
Me too.
And the thing is, when you talk a lot, and if somebody like, if your partner is like, yeah, sometimes I just like don't want to listen. It's like you signed up. I understand that. I understand it could be ad nauseum. And I got really offended because I had a conversation like that recently with my boyfriend of just like, if I don't want to, like, sometimes I just don't want to hear you talk about a certain thing. And it's like, not because I'm like whenever we get, it's not like an annoying topic. He's just like, I don't want to, I think I talked about like a 401k. He's like, can you change the subject? Like I'm like a TV, and he's like changing that. And I'm like, I got like initially very like hurt and offended by that. And then I was like, to be fair, he like just has to like hear me ramble on. But then I was like, that's what you signed up for. I that's who I was always. It's not like I just became this other person, you know?
No, but it goes back to like what we were saying at the beginning, talking about how hard it is to live with somebody. It is different when you're like, okay, I love you so much, but if you're a person who needs to like rejuvenate, if you're like, I'm not an introvert at all. My boyfriend is a huge introvert. He could do he could do a dinner party once and be like, well, I'm good for the month, and I need a month to recoup. Like, he is very happy to be by himself. And I feel like when you live with somebody, if you're that kind of person, sometimes you have to be like, I love you so much, but just like my blood, like in order for me to rejuvenate my own blood, because I don't have Mick Jagger money, I do need like just 45 minutes where I can just be alone in my head.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, there's a skill about being private together. And that is something that I never even thought, like, it sounds like an oxymoron, but you like, in order to like maintain your own sanity, the amount of privacy that you can have and share, which I don't know, does that make sense? I feel like it sounds
you want to take a phone
complex.
call. It's like the weirdest thing in the world was when we were in the pandemic, we were living in his studio and I'd want to take a phone call. And I'm not talking shit about him and I'm not saying anything that in theory I wouldn't want him to hear. But to be in a conversation with somebody in earshot of even your significant other, you're like, I can't talk right now. I need to go outside. And I'm like, I'm not saying anything that's secret. I just like, you want to have a conversation on the phone alone. It's stuff like that, like little things that you don't think of.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So, your engagement, were you like, did he set it up in a way where like it was a pretend surprise? Or was it just like, hey, like you told your folks like all together, like, hey guys, so like we did it? Or did he make a gesture?
I kept telling everybody that he was going to propose on this trip. And apparently my dad almost like canceled it because he's like, I'm too stressed out. What if we go and he doesn't do it? Like, I can't be around Claire right now because I just kept being like, oh yeah, we're getting engaged in like in Italy. And like my parents were like, you have to stop saying this. It sounds insane. And like they're like, we know Mac is a good guy, but like what if he... Like, we've only heard it from Claire so far. And then I guess when we were there, like the day before, he took each of my parents aside. He's like, by the way, I'm planning for tomorrow. And then... So I actually didn't want an engagement ring, and I didn't get an engagement ring, but he got me like a little necklace that says, he got me a little like nameplate necklace.
Why did you not want an engagement ring?
Because I don't like the like hoopla around it. And
You guys were like Cuomo.
Yeah, no, I know, but for like a good reason, because his family's, you know what I mean, in like a very authentic way. We were there, but I don't like first of all, look at how I'm dressed right now. I actually dressed up for this podcast, and this is the outfit I came up with to like look my fanciest. It would be insane for me to like be walking around in sweatpants every day of my life and have a diamond. It just like would not work with who I am as a person. And I also I just like can't stand the competition. I was on like TikTok and I was on Instagram, and I feel like people are obsessed with being like, well, show me a picture. Well, show me a picture. And I'm just like, I don't know. I was like, I'm getting married to him because like I love him and I'm excited about the relationship. And I feel like all anybody cares about is the ring. And then like the judgments and then oh, he did good. Shut up. I can't even explain it. It's just like my mom doesn't have an engagement ring. So I also feel like I didn't grow up thinking they were that important. And like my parents are still together. So I'm kind of like clearly like the weight that everybody puts on an engagement ring is not like what makes or breaks a relationship. And I just felt like, I don't know. I just couldn't stand it. And even after we got engaged, I was like, I don't know, maybe in a couple years I will want one, but it was just something about.
It's more just a piece of jewelry at that point.
Exactly.
Like as a gesture.
Yeah, I would love, like maybe one day I'll want a nice gift or whatever, but the way that it all gets so boiled down to like, well, how much did he spend on your ring? And like, does everybody think your ring is cute? And also now that I have like a podcast and stuff, I feel like I do have people that are like kind of invested and like would want to see. And I don't like the for showiness of it. But I did then immediately buy this ring for myself as a wedding band. And I got it. I saw it online and I ordered it and I opened it and I didn't like it that much. And so I was like, well, maybe I'm just not used to the way it looks on my hand. So I was like, I'll just wear it for a weekend to get used to it. And then I did get used to it. And now I still don't like it that much, but I just like feel weird taking it off. So, and like my parents also hate that. They're like, so you're walking around with your wedding band, even though you're not married, even though you like made a big to-do about not wanting an engagement ring. And I'm like, yes.
Dude, what's so funny too about like the whole fallacy of like the diamond industry and all that shit is so fucking crazy because the whole thing of like the De Beers company, the De Beers Diamond Company are the ones that start, first of all, engagement rings back in the day. That wasn't even a fucking thing up until like the early 50s, especially with a diamond, like a diamond is forever, or like, all of these sayings that we have. The De Beers Diamond fucking empire is just as effective as like Coca-Cola and Got Milk campaigns. They, to the point where like it's such pernicious advertising that we had no idea that is even an ad that was like started by a company, not like think about how like literally did not become ubiquitous in culture until the 50s. Like a diamond engagement ring became a thing. And then this notion of like, well, how much do you spend on it? You know, it has to be a third worth of his salary. Or like 3 months worth of work. That is
so much money.
But it's so much money. But not only that, that is literally created by this fucking company.
That is selling the diamond.
That is
How lucky
selling
for them.
the diamond. And it's like, what fucking like Orwellian capitalist fucking nightmare are we living in? We're like, we didn't even know the inception of that. Like when I found that out, I like watched some like truther, like fucking anti-capitalist like documentary, and I was like, wait, what? And like a diamonds are a girl's best friend, like all of these sayings, everything. And the fact that a diamond is also a precious stone that is, I mean, the fucking human rights crises that are surrounded with like blood diamonds and shit. Like it's so gross. And so when somebody is like, yeah, he got me a 24 karat like diamond. I'm like, it's like how obvious of a human being you are. It's just so basic to me, you know? And like, I understand wanting to like run with the crowd. Cause I totally like, when I get married, I'm like, yeah, I want an engagement ring. Yeah. Like I know that about myself. And I'm like, I know that's so lame and pedestrian.
I don't know, but like you wear, look how big your fucking rings are right now.
Yeah, I'm a big ring girl.
The ring I'm wearing, the reason I thought it looked crazy is because I go, it's so bulky. It's so bulky. It's literally
Claire's wearing like a string on her finger.
If I told you it was floss, you'd believe me. It is, but I'm just like not a jewelry person. So it felt insane that I'd go from never wearing any jewelry to having the biggest fucking rock on my hand. But then also
it's inauthentic.
You have to keep taking it off. Yeah, I feel like the idea that like every time I work out, every time I shower, every time I wash my hands, it's too much work for me. And I actually genuinely like the symbolism of like a wedding band. Like I like the idea of having something simple that's just like a small signifier that you never, like I want to put it on and not take it off till I die. And with a giant diamond ring, you really can't live like that. You have to take it off constantly.
Yeah, you'll like fucking injure people.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about engagements in general and like how psychotic it would be to ask somebody to marry you if they didn't know, if like that wasn't a thing you ever talked about.
Okay, so that's my big
Isn't that
thing.
Psycho?
I know.
Like imagine you just like have been with somebody for maybe like a year or two. You guys have never really talked about getting married, never really like, it hadn't really come up or something. And then you just go like, Monica, like, will you be like buying a ring, doing the whole thing, and
the
doing
biggest
a
decision
gesture,
of your life is a genuine surprise.
like putting fucking rose petals on the ground and making them like walk through like a weird like romantic like Prince like fucking maze and shit. Like,
you ever seen the ones at like a live sporting event or something? And I'm like, this is gonna end in a domestic violence oriented like divorce for sure. Like this is gonna be so bad. If they don't die on the way home from drunk driving, they are gonna be fucking both dead soon.
When people go, I had no idea. I was so surprised.
That's
I was like
psychotic.
I was like, well, you should have had some idea. Were you guys not having conversations? And that's, I know a lot of people would like think the way that I got proposed, where I like told him and I said, hey, I'm ready to get married. And then he kind of like proposed in a time I expected it to come. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's not romantic. But I'm like, I don't know. To me, what's romantic is that we're on the same page about our relationship. And when I expressed wanting to progress, he was happily on board. The thing that I would rather, I have friends who have been told, who have like fought tooth and nail to be told, oh yeah, I will propose soon. And then they wait like 16 months with their nails perfectly done, just every day being like, is it this weekend? Is it this weekend? Because he's surprising me, so he's gonna let me know soon. And I'm just like, they're like, any day now, I would kill myself. The thing is, the truth is,
the resentment would boil in you because you'd look at this motherfucker, this man that you once loved, that you want to be with, and you'd be like, when are you asking the question, you motherfucker?
It's insane to me that one of the biggest decisions of my life would be out of my own control. Is like, I'm just sitting around unaware of when the next phase of my life is beginning. No, thank you. I like to be in control of my own destiny. And as two people, I like to have an open conversation about it. And if I had said, hey, I'm ready to get married, and he had been like, you know, he's a little bit younger than me, and he had been like, you know what, Claire, like, I just like need another year or two. I want to get here or there. I would have been like, totally fine, because you've told me why and we're on the same page, and like, I'm not in a rush. But the idea that you would be sitting there being like, I'm ready to get married, and he's just like keeping me on a string, that's not a relationship I want to be in. I don't genuinely want to be surprised.
Clay, it sounds like you're in a healthy relationship.
Yeah. What do you guys think about, because there's always it's usually with athletes or I guess that's the only time you hear about it, but someone they get engaged and then it doesn't work out 6 months later and the guy's like, oh, that ring was fucking $100,000. Can I get that back? And then there's like always these tweets back and forth like, no, it's hers. And then it's like dudes being like, no, it's his.
Okay,
what are your opinions?
Maybe I'm a dick, but I feel like if it didn't work out, I feel like it's his, to be honest. It depends on the circumstances.
Why it broke up.
Yes.
If he cheated and you're like, well, I can't marry you.
It's hers. Yeah.
I think it depends on the circumstances and like how it all went down. I feel like it's a nice gesture to offer. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Unless he like is fucking someone, then he should probably get that back. But if he is, then you're like, yeah. No.
I wouldn't feel comfortable. And maybe this is just like, I'm more stubborn in this way, but like, I would not feel comfortable taking something from somebody like that. Like the guilt that I would feel, or like the ingenuineness, like I would feel kind of like a gold digger. And I just like, I very much am like, I'm an independent woman and I really don't need a man's anything.
Yeah. Wait, did you see fucking, Scottie Pippen's Larsa Pippen, so Scottie Pippen's ex-wife, is now engaged to Michael Jordan's fucking firstborn son.
That's sick. Is that true?
Yep.
That's disgusting. What is wrong with her?
How old is she?
She's got to be close to 50.
How old is Michael Jordan's son?
30 or something, maybe even younger.
She must be so smoking hot.
Have you seen her? She looks just like a Kardashian. She was friends with the Kardashians for a while and got all of their work done.
That is the creepiest thing about plastic surgery, is that how it makes you just look like this like uniformed human being.
Yeah, it's a very specific. But what was the Scottie Pippen Michael Jordan relationship? Because I know it was contentious, but they were teammates.
They were teammates in
it's like
close.
A grooming thing.
Yeah,
where, like,
so
she would have known that little, because
she would have known him since he was born.
Yeah, that's the weird part.
That's so funny when a woman does that, because it's so rare.
I'm like, yeah, girl boss.
Yeah,
break
that glass ceiling, honey. Be that. Yeah,
yeah. It's so
sexually coerce that man.
They were at like a basketball game and someone started yelling at them. They're like, gross! What are you doing? It was the funniest fucking video. And they deserve it. I'm like, you should be yelled at in public if you're doing weird shit like that, dude.
It's also, I'm a big believer in like one per group. If you date somebody on the college soccer team, then your next boyfriend has to be on the college football team. Like there's billions of people in the world.
100%.
You don't have to date friends, and you don't have to date your friends' exes. Like I do believe like there's enough people out there to go around. She could have found somebody that wasn't like at her Thanksgivings. Do you know what I mean? Like it's so weird to double dip like that.
And she was already openly cheating on fucking Scottie before they like fully broke up. She was banging Future. Like
the rapper?
Yeah. Like I fucked your bitch in some Gucci flip-flops. That's about Larsa Pippen.
Shut.
Yeah. Allegedly. I read these things online.
No, but I believe all of them. I'm like, of course.
I'm like, that's fact. I'm taking that. That's awesome. If I like the fake rumor, I'm going to believe it for sure.
Too.
Like,
of course. That's life is filled with joy like that.
Yeah.
I am, I'm shocked, but I'm also, there's something I completely agree with you, Claire, that the double dipping in a group, I have never, like the idea, I don't understand how small your network is. Like literally, unless you live in a farm town in Iowa and there is a population of 100 people. So you're like, yeah, like I dated these guys and they were cousins, whatever. And this is probably just my own narcissism, but I'm like, I would never want to date somebody that I knew before that we didn't already have a romantic like kindling, because it just doesn't, I would not feel comfortable in that dynamic, you know? And just dating somebody in the same friends group is like such a toxic thing, unless it was like years past, you know? Like I've set people up. I mean, I have a lot of Eskimo sisters, because there'll be somebody that I'm like, whatever, we casually had sex and then they casually had sex. And it's like, but it's so copacetic and completely fine. And then there's other times where I'm like, oh, I dated so-and-so like a few years ago. He's a really great guy, actually. And we're buddies. And I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the idea of dating somebody and then like their friend, like somebody that they're like even an acquaintance of, that feels wrong. And maybe people will push back from that, but it just feels kind of cruel. you know?
It just feels unnecessary. Like that like adds a layer of messiness that's like for nobody. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't help anyone. I just think unless it's the absolute love of your life and it can't be helped, there's no reason to like go back to the same frat and now be dating the roommate. Just find a new guy. Just find a new friend group.
It feels like more of a psychological issue with the person doing it. Like they want to like garner attention from somebody. It feels like they're proving something, you know? I mean, if love is like the only reason, then that's okay. That's what it is. But I feel like to even get to that point where that door is open, then you have to be like wanting up somebody or like, I don't know. How do you feel about that, Liam?
Yeah, I wouldn't unless it's two people are like, it's years later and you fall in love, whatever shit happens. But fucking, yeah, that happened to me in college where this girl was hooking up with one of my buddies and then my other friend like started hooking up with her and it destroyed their friendship. But I was also like, it was more of a, at the time, just being like, oh, what a scumbag this one guy is or bad friend. And I was like, what's up with her though? Because she like, I get it, but also
Mind games.
Yeah, she's got to be really into that. She's probably getting off on destroying a friendship too.
Yeah,
you know
I
what
mean, I feel like people, like when you're younger, I think it's more high school, college, there's kind of this fantasy that if a guy wrongs you, you're like, whatever, I'll hook up with all your friends. And I'm like, that's never made you look better.
Yeah.
No guy's ever seen his ex fuck his best friend and gone, damn, I just now realized how valuable of a woman she was. I'm like having tender, deep feelings for her of true love and romance.
I
and
really
wanting to
miss her in this moment.
Yeah, this makes me see her good qualities that I took for granted. Like that's you've never come out on top. You either just break up a friendship and they hate you more, or you're being laughed at, or they're going back and high fiving and being like, "Damn, we all fucked her."
Yeah, and it's most of the time it's that one.
Yeah, but it's hard. I think it's hard to break a male friendship because they're such bullshit. I don't know what boyfriends are like predicated on, but
you're the expert of that because you have so many you have a lot of close male relationships. So can you enlighten us?
Yeah, like what would you say they're built on?
Yeah, I mean, the male friendship is always based off like you're looking at something. Like there's something in front of you where it's like girls are always face to face, dudes are like looking at a fucking TV or an activity or like a fishing
pole.
Yeah. At the beginning of the pandemic, when my boyfriend, like when we weren't like working because we didn't know what was happening, he was gaming like 24/7 and all of his friends were on. And he said to me, it was like the first week of lockdown, and he's like, I've never felt more socially fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I was like, I haven't seen another human being. I'm about to kill myself. And he's like, my cup runneth over.
Yeah.
He's like, we're just gaming together all the time.
That's like the funny thing about like men bonding is that it's always this activity like hunting where it's like, yeah, we just want to go into the woods and be quiet together.
Yeah.
Like literally be quiet. There was like this great tweet that I saw that was like, men invented golfing so they could go on walks together.
I think that might have been me.
Wait, really?
I was just about to say, like, I always do this joke where when I hate golf, and I'm always like, just go on a fucking walk. Like, you could hike. It might have been someone. I mean, I feel
dude,
like
that's gay. With your buddy going on a walk? What are you gonna hold pinkies?
it's so funny if men could just go on a walk together. Like there could be way more public parks, but instead they're like, no, this is an expensive elite feat of athleticism.
I'm not. It's only for kids. I don't have kids. Why would I need a park? Yeah. I don't need a park.
Yeah.
I think if you're not annoying and you don't talk that much, we're probably gonna be friends.
That's my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Men love being friends with my boyfriend because he's just like a good vibe and he's down to listen.
The whole time you were talking about it, I was like, I love this guy.
Yeah.
It's
It's like mine too, where it's like he's just like a dude. He's like such a guy's guy, you know. That I'm like, he has some female friends, but it's like he is such like that homosocial kind of
100%.
thing. Like, buddy, what's up? But I think that's derivative of the fact that all boys school. So it's like you just like
mine went to an all boys school. He just
they're good with dudes.
Yeah,
they're good with dudes. Dude, how do you feel about all girls or all boys schools?
I feel like I don't mind it. I feel like there's pros and cons to both. I think like I've talked to women who loved going to an all girls school, and I think I would be happy to send a daughter to an all girls school because I do think like the element of boys just fucks it up. But I went to a co-ed school. I don't know. I guess I truly don't feel passionately either way, but I see the value and cons in both.
Yeah.
What about you, Liam?
Yeah, there's in high school, I think it doesn't matter. Like college,
No, that would be weird.
That's weird.
That's weird.
High school, I think it's probably a good thing. I mean, and then also there's like the bad things where the guys that are like the most popular in all boys school think they're godly. And then probably the same thing at an all-girls school.
Yeah. Well, that's what. So my boyfriend went to an all-boys school and he loved it, and those are all still like his best friends and stuff. But his sister went to an all-girls school and he told me that she went to a very like competitive catty one. So I feel like. But I also had a cousin who went to an all-girls school, and she was like, it was amazing because you know how women are when they're alone. They're like the silliest people in the world.
Oh, a women's bathroom is one of the most like utopian areas
yeah, and like women
that ever been.
Are so funny. And like I think TikTok is kind of like starting to shed a light that when we're amongst ourselves, we're actually much funnier because we're like quicker and like have more nuance, and also all of our jokes haven't been turned into like hack bits on Comedy Central. But then like you get socialized out of it. You get socialized into being like nervous around men that you can't like show that part of yourself. And so I would be happy to have like, and I think you start seeing it in like high school, like girls who are so fucking funny in middle school start wanting to be perceived as hot. So they like lock it down. And I would love to give my daughter 4 extra years of just being a fucking goofball.
That is so true and so succinct, because the thing is, I realize men use humor in order to like attain a woman, and women have to really suppress their humor in order to be found as a sexy like woman. And so it's like it completely we're using different elements in order to captivate and attract one another, and it really does suppress like that silliness in women. And I think that that's why the whole notion of like women aren't funny, it's like, well, it's really bred out of us pretty quickly, because like a clever woman is basically like, hang her, Salem witch trials. It's called Clever Ladies, dude. They're just an improv group.
Yeah, there's no
and they're like, hang them.
Female magicians. This just got burnt out of you for 150 years.
Yeah, exactly. We were told we're scared to die.
A girl did this, and the mayor was like, wrong move, bitch. Get over here. You're getting fucking burned.
She's like, here's the church, here's the steeple, here is, and with all the people, they're like, stone her to death.
One guy just starts piling up wood. He's like, nope, can't do that.
Yeah. Honestly, don't know how he did that. She's like doing the fucking thumb trick. She's like, whoa. And they're like,
It's literally been less than
Satan,
that.
not today.
They were like, if you're over there, how come my dick's getting hard over here? To death. They're like telekinesis.
She's controlling my penis.
Wait, have you heard that study that like men and women equally say that a good humor and their partner is like important, but when you ask a woman what like a partner with a good sense of humor is, it's like a man who can make me laugh, and when you ask a man, it's like a woman who laughs at my jokes.
I have brought this up because I've always said that women are usually perceived as like a participant, whereas like, or a passive passenger in comedy, whereas like a man is the one that's driving it. That's just like always what it is. So it's like when you're like, yeah, like I just want him to have a good sense of humor. It means like he's making people laugh, and it's like, I just want her to have a good sense of humor.
She's not
she
a
likes
stick in
to
the mud.
laugh.
Yeah,
she's
not
likes
gonna
to
be
laugh.
like, hey man, that's a slur. Please don't say that.
Yeah. Like, oh, you have no sense of humor. Yeah, okay, you don't like when Tommy tapes his eyes like he's Asian? So that's offensive. So all of a sudden, that's not funny. Okay? So I can't say my wife, Borat voice. You think that's not funny?
You have no sense of humor.
You literally know nothing about comedy. I am fucking the Steve Martin over here. I'm Mel Brooks. Do you have any questions for? I always like to ask the guests if like, do you have any questions for Liam or I, or like the male perspective? Yeah, he's an amalgam of all men.
Okay. 1 to 10. How hot am I?
8.
Thank you. Okay,
That's pretty good. I actually would go higher personally.
Well, I can't go higher than, if I do that, then it seems like I'm lying.
Yeah.
And
also, I would
like if I say 10, they're gonna go, shut up.
I feel like if I really put some work into it, I could be an 8. But I have this thing I call it the Schrodinger's box of hotness, where I never try to look hot, because then I could always like potentially have been very hot if I tried, but we'll never know.
That's true. It's like how if you start wearing makeup, then you're like, damn, I look great. And then when you don't wear makeup and somebody sees you, they're like, hey, do you have a cold?
That's why I can't.
And you're like, no, I'm not. You just look really sick and tired. I'm like, oh, because I'm not wearing like blush. Yeah.
That's why I won't do lash extensions, because I'm like, I can't add something to myself where then I'll go back and be like, have I been dead for 100 years? It's too awful. And my whole thing, my actually lifelong no makeup thing has been, at my wedding, I'm gonna look so fucking hot.
Wow. Yeah, because you're not wearing any makeup and you just look beautiful.
Well, I don't look beautiful, but people will be.
You do. You are beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's really.
It is. I think. I really think that's just true.
I went to boarding school actually and so I used to watch girls And it was back in the era of like contouring and shit was so intense. I would watch them wash their face at the end of the night and I'd be like, oh my God, who have you been this whole time? And I was like,
I remember that in high school because the day prom happened, the girls didn't come home with makeup because they were getting it done later. And I was a freshman in high school, and like all the hot senior girls all year were like the hottest chicks I've ever seen. And then one day we're all like, who is that? What happened to all of you at once? What the fuck?
And like that really did imprint on me. And I was like, you know what? I may not be the hottest girl in the room, but nobody's ever going to be bamboozled by me. I'm going to show up and they're going to be like, and when I was on dating apps, I remember guys would always be like, whoa, you look just like your photos. I'm like, I know, I took those this morning in the bright hot light.
I can't even understand wearing that much makeup because like I would even like, I used to wear like eyeliner more and I'm like, I don't really even fuck with that because like it just looks like it's such a dramatic look. And then when you change it, why would you not want to look like yourself? And I look, makeup is also truly, that's witchcraft. Like, let's talk about witchy shit. I have seen the contouring shit where it's like, it's truly optical illusions you're doing to your face. I'm like, okay, listen, MC Escher with a fucking paintbrush. This is so wild. And it's, I don't know, I feel like you're gaslighting everyone because you're like, yeah, I look like this. And I'm like, you don't look like this. You're making the bridge of your nose look so different. It's like, at least at that point, truly just get plastic surgery. So then it's actually your real face. If you're going to make your nose and your chin and all these things look so dramatically different with like shading, and I get it is an art, because I think there's a lot of women that do it that like, it's really impressive.
Yeah.
It's like, it's artist. That's why they call them a makeup artist. Like, it's pretty incredible. But I personally wouldn't feel comfortable with like, because then I would take my makeup off and I'd be like, I look like Eileen Wuornos, dude. I look like an old, like.
You love bringing up Eileen Wuornos.
If you, heads out there, Wuornos heads out there. Anytime I say Eileen Wuornos, if you do a shot, you will go to the hospital. If you're binging this pod. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. It's so great to meet you.
Yeah.
You're
nice
so smart and funny. You are.
Stop it. I feel like if we were both single, I would take you on a date right now. You've been so nice to me on this couch.
Thank you. Where can they find you? And do you have what can you plug?
Yeah, I'm Claire the Scare on everything, Claire the Scare. And then my podcast is Celebrity Memoir Book Club, which you can find anywhere there's a podcast, or on TikTok and on Instagram, everywhere. Everywhere you would think to look, I'm those two places.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Guys. Thanks.
Oh.